Hi, this is John with SysEng and today I'm going to show you how to install CentOS 7. On the CentOS.org website, click on Get CentOS Now. There's a couple of options for you. To download it in your browser, you can click on these orange links. The DVD ISO is usually the best option. The minimal ISO will allow you to download things from Mirror while you're installing. I've already got the DVD ISO, so we can go ahead and install. If you want to use BitTorrent to download instead, you can get those ISOs from here. So let's go over to CentOS in VirtualBox, which I'll be using to install this. When it first boots up, it's got an option to test the media. I generally skip this and go to just install CentOS. If you test the media, you can make sure that your ISO is good. So if you burned a DVD and you want to make sure that's okay, you can test the media. Generally, I don't find that it's all that useful. Although, if you want to be cautious, go ahead and do that. But it will take several minutes to go and test that media. Alright, when it first boots up, it's going to ask us about the language we're going to use. I'm in the US, so I'm going to choose English and English US. And now it's got a few options for us to select. So, date and time, it's assuming that I'm in the Americas, New York region. I'm not, but that's close enough to my actual region. I'm going to leave it by default. If your keyboard layout's different, you change that here. And language support, if that's not your language, go ahead and change that. The installation source, local media, because we use the DVD installer. And software selection, if you have the DVD, you'll have lots of different options to go through. Generally, I like to go for a minimal install and customize it later, which is what I'll do. But you might want to add server with GUI if you know you're going to need a graphical user interface. Alright, now we need to pick the partitions, so I'll go over here, and it's already selected my first hard disk, and it gives me the option either to automatically configure partitioning or configure it manually. Let's go ahead and do manual partitioning. Click on Done. It takes you to the partitioning. So we need to create a new mount point. We're going to make a standard partition, and the boot point is going to be boot. This is the boot order we're going to use. I'm going to say 512 megabytes. I'm also going to add a swap partition, and we'll have that be 4 gigabytes. And then we'll add a root partition. And if you don't specify the desired capacity, it simply gives you everything that you need, or everything that's remaining. So there are our 3 partitions, but I want to make a couple changes to them. So on the boot thing, by default, CentOS uses the XFS partitioning file system. I prefer ext4, although day-to-day use, unless you have a reason, there's not that much difference between them. But there are a couple of specific use cases where XFS is better or ext4 is better. But for general use, I like to go with ext4. Same thing for the root partition, I change it to ext4. And I also want to use the Linux Logical Volume Manager. So for the device type, we'll change from standard partitioning to LVM. Volume group is CentOS, that's fine. And the name is the root, so it's going to be CentOS root. Now, on the swap partition, again, I want to make that LVM. So now we've got an LVM partition for our root and our swap, and the boot partition is on the first primary partition. So now I can hit Done, and it will ask me if I'm sure it's what I want to do. So basically, we're going to make a couple partitions, the SDA1 and SDA2. SDA2 is our LVM, and SDA1 is our boot partition. Our root file system is ext4, the swap file system of swap type swap. So click on Accept Changes, and now we can go to Network and Hostname. If you want to have a specific hostname, you can put it here. It doesn't really matter. You can leave the default if you want. I'm just going to put CentOS.localdomain. It doesn't really matter that much. And I'll change the toggle over here to turn Ethernet on. And by default, it tries to find DHCP, which it did for me. But if you want to configure it manually, you can go in here and make changes to the IPv4 settings. You can see by default it's DHCP, but you could use manual if you wanted. So now I'll click on Done. Leave KDump and security policy alone. If you don't know what those are, don't need to worry about them. If you do know what they are, you probably don't need to be watching this video. Alright, I'll go ahead and hit begin installation. It's going to start doing the install, and while it's doing that, it wants us to set up the root user and a system user that we can use for day-to-day tasks. So let's set up the root password. If they match, it'll let you go back. If they don't match, it'll give you a warning saying the passwords don't match. Now we can make the user creation. It can be whatever you want. This is just your first day-to-day user. And it will give you a username based on your name. I'm going to change that to syseng. And if you choose to make this user administrator, it will allow them to log in as the root user or become the root user. And then you can elevate your privileges to install things. Generally, for your first user, you want to do that. Again, we have to put the password in twice. And if they match, you won't get the passwords don't match error, and you can hit done. The advanced stuff generally isn't that useful, but you can change the home directory if you want. You can specify the user ID, group ID, and whatever groups you want in there. But generally, you won't need to do that in the installer. Let's go ahead and hit done. And now all we have to do is wait for the installation to finish, and we can boot into our CentOS install. Alright, when the installation is complete, it will tell you complete, and you can hit the reboot button to boot into your new CentOS install. And there you have it. That's how you install CentOS. See you next time.